ever been in a situation where you felt like you were going to die? In a real life situation. For example, I'm in a 12-foot pool. I'm not the greatest swimmer, so I stay in the shallow end where my feet can touch the bottom of the pool. At this point, I have control of where I am and what happens next. Somehow, I end up in the deeper end, and my feet can no longer touch the bottom of that pool, and I lose all control. I start going under the water, and I am panicking. Because I am panicking, I am drowning. Immediately, I begin thinking, this is it. This is it. I have no way out, so this is the end. Just when that thought crossed my mind, I began floating. I had this happen 4 years ago. Of course, the pool was hypothetical. However, the situation was real. I used to be embarrassed to tell this story, but once I reflected back on it and noticed all the obstacles I faced and overcame, I became proud and I feel confident to tell this story. I especially enjoy telling this story to those currently going through something similar because I want to give them a sense of hope and faith. Back in 2017 is when things began going downhill for me. Nothing was ever perfect in my life, but in this specific year, I thought I had lost it all. To give a little background knowledge, my family has never really acted like a family. During certain occasions, they would fake the funk and act like everyone loved one another, but it was a constant war between everyone. And I'm just talking about my mom and her siblings. There are 6 of them all together, so it was always 3 against the other 3, with my mother always being one. It was towards the end of my junior year of high school. My mother, brother, and I were living with my great-grandmother, along with my cousin Cam, whom my grandmother raised. One day, my Uncle Brett, who was also Cam's dad, and his wife shows up. Nothing out of the ordinary. We are all talking and laughing it up like we always do when we see each other. In one of our conversations, he mentioned the family group chat that I've known nothing about. He was really confused on why my brother and I were never added, so he decided to do the honors. To make it a long story short, my brother and I read messages of them talking down about our mother. We asked them to stop, but they took it as a joke and carried on. My aunt's daughter decided to get involved and threaten my brother. So as the older sister, I became defensive. She told my brother to come to her house and do something about it. I showed up and we fought. She told my brother more threats, but I paid it no mind after that because I saw that she was just upset. She told the whole family that she got jumped. And the whole family showed up at my grandmother's house. At this point, it was about 30 against 2. I became fed up from not speaking up about how I feel and what is not right. After that, things went downhill. After about 2 to 3 months after the incident, I found my grandmother in her room. She had a stroke. She was in the hospital for a few months. While she was in the hospital, my aunt, who was my grandmother's beneficiary, told us, I don't care where y'all go, but y'all have to leave. It was now the beginning of my senior year, and we still had nowhere to go because my mother pretty much gave up everything to take care of my grandmother, and she had just lost her job as well. We only had about a month to leave, and my mother began getting anxious and depressed, and so was I. Then suddenly she got lucky. To this day, we still don't know what made her go. But it was very much so a coincidence. My mother heard about a housing auction and decided to show up just for the heck of it. She ended up buying a house for $200. I was so proud of her because I was really afraid we would be living on the streets. Before the renovation she recently had done, the house was really nothing but a roof over our heads to keep us safe. We had no running utilities or even furniture, so we had to go over other people's houses to fulfill our needs, with that being taking a shower, eating, charging our phones, and etc. Although she now had her own house, it was in a different town than where I was going to school. I didn't think it would make much sense to transfer to a different school in my last year of high school. Plus, I didn't want to risk messing up my credits. So I made the decision to stay with my cousin until I graduated. I wasn't treated the best and went many nights without eating. I slept on the couch for those months that I was there. With so much on my plate, I turned to unhealthy coping strategies to deal with my stress. With everything I had to deal with in that house alone, I did not leave because I was determined to get my diploma. I prayed every chance I got, even in the middle class. Like, I would even get up in the middle of class to go to the bathroom just to pray. My situation was that bad. Before we got kicked out of my grandmother's house, I was also in a very toxic relationship, so he was not making it any better. I hated everyone, including myself. I did not know how to feel or even know the first step in taking to deal with my emotions. I remember one day just crying and pouring my heart out in prayer. I remember telling him, please just take me away from here, take me with you, take me home. Going to school from my cousin's house really sucked. It was a much further walk than what I was used to. She lived all the way on the other side of town. And I walked in all types of crazy weather. I'm from up north, so the weather can definitely get insane up there, especially in the winter. I was so stressed out in the beginning that I thought I was going to fail my classes and not be able to graduate. Also, in the midst of everything, my brother was taken away from us to a group home, and my grandmother passed away shortly after that. Those two events tore my world completely apart. I would have random crying spells, but I didn't like crying in front of people, so I would lock myself in a different room or in the bathroom until I got myself together, and that usually took about an hour. However, I continued to pray every single chance I got. I began to notice that I was making better grades than I had in the previous years. I was also forming better relationships with my peers and teachers. Before I knew it, my life began transforming right before my eyes. I became an overall better person. I was no longer sad and miserable. I paid attention in church. God began using me, and it felt amazing. There was never a plan set in place or an expectation, for me to go to college because of my financial situation. However, I wanted to prove people wrong and make a difference. I only have about a handful of relatives who actually went to college and graduated from college. My school suddenly introduced a program where we as high school students can take college classes and earn college credits at the same community college. They provided transportation. It was free, so of course I took advantage of this opportunity. Later on in the year, I decided that I was going to SCC after I graduated high school. About 2 months before graduation, I was presented another opportunity. Different colleges came to my school for several days for a college fair. I didn't want to go because I already had my mind made up of where I'm going after I graduate. But my guidance counselor, he insisted that I go. He would say he highly encouraged me to at least take a look around. So that's what I did. I finally did it, and I was offered an academic scholarship for Livingstone College. Now there was another decision I had to make. Livingstone is in Salisbury, North Carolina. That's far away from home in New Jersey. I didn't think my mother would be very supportive, but her exact words to me were, yes, go. We will make a way for you to get up there. I am so proud of you. After I graduated, I was taken to North Carolina. It was a hard goodbye, but I knew it was for my best interest. It didn't really work out at Livingstone, but I made an amazing life here in North Carolina. I never turned back after that. As I conclude this speech, I want people to understand I went from living in misery to living every day in joy. Everyone can receive a different message from the story. That can be to never give up, pray, and things get better, better is yet to come, or you must endure pain before reaping victory. However, I would like to tell you the message I received. Every weekend, I would stay with my Nana, who is my mother's adopted mother. One weekend that I was with her, she gave me a silver bracelet with some charms on it. On one of the charms, there was a message that really stuck with me. The message was, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, anything is possible. I wore it every single day since the day she gave it to me because it just made every day so much easier to get through.